I'm Luke Hatfield. I'm joined by Tim Spiers here at the Express and Star. Tim, it's not the easiest game for Wolves tomorrow. Spurs at Molineux. How do they go about getting a result here? Because they've lost 2 on the bounce now.
Tough game, as Nuno would say. Tough game. In a way, not the ideal game you want after 2 defeats, but for me, I'd flip that on its head and say this is exactly the kind of game that Wolves would want. A big occasion, a rare Saturday night game, obviously a packed house, obviously a fantastic atmosphere, and Spurs. Yes, they made a good start to the league, but it's a little bit doom and gloom over there. You know, Pochettino saying earlier this week it's the worst time he's ever known in a good few years at the club. He says it's weird because we've made the best start, but I've got the worst feeling. He said, due to a combination of reasons, really, mostly to do, I think, with the stadium issues. You know, they're still homeless, as it were. So there are plenty of reasons for Wolves to be optimistic going into the game. Yes, consecutive defeats, no goals in those games, but I would expect a big improvement tomorrow. And there are a few things to point to from a Spurs point of view. I mean, they're in the middle of a tough run of fixtures, 4 games in 8 days, which you don't expect at this time of the season. And big games. I mean, they've got a must-win Champions League game next Tuesday. Yeah. They've only picked up 1 point from their first 3 games. They host PSV next Tuesday, knowing that if they don't win, they're out. So it's a knockout game, a huge game. They possibly have one eye on that, but and I think that Man City defeat on Monday night has sort of ended their title ambitions already. I don't think they're in the title race. I know mathematically, of course, they're well up there, but I think they know that this isn't going to be their season for the title. We've had a couple of injury problems as well, and Wolves have done well against the big teams. You know, they held Man City, they held Man United, so I would expect an improved performance. And if they can get that first goal, which we say week after week, it's so important to the way that Wolves play and approach a game. If they can get that first goal at a noisy Molineux, then you never know.
Yeah, and I know it is at Molineux, Tim, but is this seen as a little bit of a free hit maybe? Do Nuno see it that way? Or because it's at home, do you have to put in a good performance and you have to try and get a result?
I wouldn't go down the free hit line just yet. Spurs are beatable. They narrowly beat Cardiff at home a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. We're keeping the ball in the corner towards the end of that one. You know, they've lost to Watford away. They've been pretty good on the road in total, beat West Ham in the Carabao Cup in midweek, but I think Wolves, as we said on our last video, aiming to be a top half club this season. So Spurs at home, it's not unthinkable. Like I said, they're one of only 2 teams to have taken points off Man City this season. Spurs couldn't manage that the other night. Wolves did manage it. So there's a bit of doom and gloom around the club at the moment after consecutive defeats for the first time under Nuno. Uncharted territory in that respect. But like I said, they're 10th in the league. They've made a fantastic start to the season. They will play better on Saturday. They played very well at Brighton last week and were unlucky not to get a point out of that. They could have won it on another day. And if they had won it, there'd be a completely different perspective and mood around the place. So for me, I know every game is overanalyzed these days and fans are so high after a win and so low after a defeat, but a bit of perspective is needed, I think. Wolves are in a fantastic position. And with this young and improving team, this exciting team that plays fantastic football, it should be a great game on Saturday, and they give Spurs a really good game.
Yeah, that's it, and plenty of star power on show as well. You've got Harry Kane, Dele Alli, Eric Miller. I mean, so many players. I mean, how did Wolves go about stopping some of these talents?
Well, interesting to see how they line up because Ali and Eriksen both missed the Man City game coming back from injury, but both started at West Ham in the Cup in midweek. So will they get another game in a row? I don't know. Pochettino made 10 changes for that Carabao Cup game. There's only Davinson Sanchez that's played both. So he's got options. Lucas Moura, Lamela, as you say. Son as well was on the bench for Man City but started in midweek. So does he bring him in? Either way, Harry Kane is the obvious danger man. He's not been quite himself this season. He's only scored 7 in 16.
Only.
Which is great by most people's standards, but not by his. Yeah. You've got to say his lofty standards, so he'll be looking to change that. We know he'll play. Connor Cody's got to have a good game to try and subdue him. Yeah. And then whoever plays around him, whatever personnel it is, Wolves will play narrow. They'll try and restrict the space. They'll try and push these guys wide, like they did against Man City and Man United, like they do with most teams, and try and nullify their threat in midfield. We know how they're going to play it: tight, narrow, keep the ball when they can, get it out to the wing backs, and then take it from there. where they've fallen down in recent weeks is when they've gone beyond that. We know that they're good at bringing the ball out from the back. They're very solid and reliable. Their shape's very good. But it's in that final third when the ball gets to the likes of Traore, Jota, Costa, that's been letting them down in recent weeks. Lacking a bit of magic, lacking a bit of unpredictability. So that's what's got to change it if they're going to win and pull off what would still be a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, and it's got to be a little bit of an improvement there in terms of finishing, because Wolves, as we said before, they've not been as clinical as you'd expect in front of goal this season, have they?
No, and I know it's something that they've been working on in training this week. Adama Traore interviewed yesterday, said we know that we're good in defence, we're good in midfield, it's just that finishing touch. But as Matt Doherty said last Saturday, I asked him, have you been working on this in training? And he said, yeah, in training they're all going in the top corner.
Yeah.
We're all, he said himself, he stuck one in the top corner from long range in training, and then during the match he was in a similar position and his foot hit the floor.
Yeah.
So he said it's always different with that game pressure. You can't replicate scoring those goals in training necessarily during the match, because it's a completely different situation. So as he was saying, you can work on it in training, but in those match situations when there's pressure, when there's 30,000 fans screaming at you, it becomes very different. So you need something to change in that respect, and I think it will, because these guys are hugely talented. Jota and Costa, 19 starts, no goals, no assists. We know they're better than that.
Yeah.
It's perhaps a bit of a confidence issue. It's getting used to the league, getting used to not having as much time on the ball or space as they would be used to. It's little tweaks here and there, but Wolves had 25 shots last week, so we know it's not a problem going forward. It's just that finishing touch, which I'm convinced will come sooner or later. I mean, Doherty said himself he thinks they're going to hand out a thrashing sooner or later.
Yeah.
Can't see that happening on Saturday, obviously, but I think they will improve in front of goal. They've got the talent there to do it.
And lastly, Tim, I know this is a preview for the Spurs game, but we've got Arsenal after this, Arsenal away. I mean, there's a big chance here that Wolves could not win either of these games, and the mood maybe takes a bit of a downer. But it's important for the fans to stay calm in this situation.
God, yeah, this is the Premier League. Wolves edged a few tight games against Palace, Southampton, Burnley, West Ham, all those teams that are sort of around them in the table, that 7th to 15th sort of bracket. They edged those tight games. They didn't turn up against Watford, and then they were edged out by Brighton. So it's such fine margins. I would point out Wolves haven't played any of the bottom 4 teams yet. Other teams have been taking points galore off Fulham, Cardiff, Newcastle and Huddersfield. Wolves haven't had that yet. They're competing, they're doing well, it's just tweaks here and there. What will be interesting tomorrow is the team news, because for 9 games, first 9 games of the season, he's played the same 11, and then he changed it last week, bringing in Traore for Jota. I thought it was the right move to take Jota out the firing line. I thought Cavaleiro would start. Traore got the nod and didn't do himself justice. By his own admission, he can play miles better, as he said yesterday. We know that. We've seen him play better off the bench. Does Nuno stick with him for a second game in a row? Does he show the faith that he showed in Jota and has shown in Costa, despite them not bringing that end product to the table? Traore's not his player yet. He's brought him in the summer. We know he's not in the mould that Nuno wants him to be. So does he reward him with another start? It's a tough call, because Ivan Cavaleiro, he was so good last season. Getting back to fitness now, we've seen him off the bench making an impact pretty much every time he's come on. But we saw the same with Traore, making an impact when he came off the bench, and he wouldn't start him. It's very hard to read Nuno's mind, and he's got 4 players there who can do something special. But it's picking the best 2 maybe on a week by week basis. We might see a bit of rotation. So who does he pick this week? Does he go on it on form in training? Does he go on the players he trusts the most? Really interesting call. Jota, Costa, Traore, Cavaleiro. Who will it be? I would predict he'll go with Cavaleiro and Costa. But whichever 2 he goes with, he's got options off the bench to change a game. So hopefully things can start turning for them. Because if things start turning for these forward players and they do what we know they can do, then Wolves become a hell of a team. And it's a very exciting prospect as and when that happens.
Should be interesting tomorrow. So Wolves Spurs under the lights. For all the latest on them, make sure you stay with us at expressandstar.com.